incredibly disappointing for La Roja. They bow out of the World Cup in the penalty shootout. But Igor Akinfeev, who at times was a much maligned goalkeeper throughout his career, well, he's a hero now in Russia. There is no doubt about that. First, saving from Koke to put the pressure on Spain, and then a pretty remarkable save from Aspas, which made sure that Russia were advancing to the quarter-finals of the 2018 World Cup. Eamon, obviously contrasting emotions, and possibly this spells the end of a once great Spanish team. But for Russia, you have to admire them. They hung on in there for the draw, and there's the hero.
Yeah, it's a great story of a team that was given no chance by anybody who's watched them over the last 3 or 4 years, and they have gone forward to the quarter-final as the host nation, which is an amazing achievement. And of course, as you said, there would be sadness for people like Iniesta and Ramos, Piqué, Busquets, De Gea, all these great players. But they looked tired through the whole period. They didn't have the spark. And Russia hung on. And you have to admire their courage, which is something they've rarely shown as a team, and their resilience. And it's also, I think, about the tournament. This is a great tournament, and it produces moments like this that anyone, I think, can savour. The underdog beating the champ. Great story.
And of course made even more important than the fact that they're the hosts. And prior to the tournament starting, Richard, this team, I mentioned the keeper was maligned during his career, but this team were called by the Russian media and by a lot of their supporters the worst Russian team in history. I mean, it wasn't just in the last decade or 2 decades, in history. And they had poor results leading into this World Cup. But what I noted about those results was they played all the better teams. They only had 2 internationals where you'd say, well, they should have won those, and they did. So I suppose they had a huge point to prove when they started in the group phase.
They did do, and they got fortunate in terms of the team they played in that first game. They beat Saudi Arabia 5-0, and instantly their confidence rose and they started to believe in themselves. And then today's performance, you have to admire it, because they knew Spain is a better side than them, and they knew what they were strong at and they knew what they were good at, and they were happy for Spain to have the ball. They got themselves settled in. You could tell probably as soon as they equalised, they were happy. That was it. They would take penalties right then, and they done it. And Ignacevic, centre-half, 38 years old, to keep going through all that constant bombardment, really, just moving side to side, is very physically, it's difficult. And
then step up and take a great
penalty. And it was brilliant, and they deserve it for that sense. The way that they defended, they deserve it today. And Spain, only themselves to blame. They had plenty of opportunities to get shots away, but just didn't take them today.
Yeah, Damien, you always want football to put a smile on your face, and it took a long time for that game to put a smile on anybody's face here, because it was pretty dreary stuff, very repetitive. Spain in possession all the time, but not doing a whole lot with it. Russia happy to sit back, but the outcome puts a smile on our face, doesn't it?
You can call it dreary, Peter, but I still think it's beautiful in its own way. It's a way of playing, obviously Spanish, the Spain way, all possession against Russia. Like Richie said, they were so well organised, you have to hand it to them. So, you know, it was still, you know, some people call it ugly. I still think it was a beautiful watch.
But not very exciting, was it?
Yeah, but it's like a chess match, you know. Spain, listen, it is the end of an era. Like the quality you have, that you'll have a couple of lads retiring, but they have a top under-20 team coming through. But Russia done a job on them. You know, the heart they showed, which was questioned last year in the Confederations Cup. The bottle they showed in the penalties, they were so organised. And, you know, I'd like to apologise, because I've been hard on them since day one. I've done every Russian game, and I keep saying they'll get found out when they get up against quality. Well, they came up against quality today, and they've done a job on Spain.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge story in terms of what Damien just talked about. You know, a modest team playing aristocrats, really. Spain are the aristocrats of Europe at the moment, and have been for several years. And this is a team with no household names. This was courage, raw courage, and I think pride also. They're playing at home for their own people. And, you know, that's one sport, and I agree with Damien, the word beautiful is appropriate, because it's the little guy beating the aristocrat.
But that's the outcome, isn't it?
No, but it's beating them through hard work, through discipline, through chasing those red shirts for 90 minutes plus another half an hour, you know, and not losing your shape or your discipline. Tracking men, it's hard work. It's great. It's beautiful is the appropriate word.
Yeah, I know, sorry, 2012, sorry to reference it again, but we've played against that outfit. Yeah, they're a bit older. And like we have a giggle about it off air. It was the longest 76 minutes of my life and 90 for Richie. Yeah. They just keep you moving and moving and moving. And that one little chink, they'll find it. And they didn't find the chink today in the Russian defence.
Well, wasn't that it, Richard, that there's extraordinary discipline required to maintain that shape and that concentration, which is the word you used for, we say, the Spanish misdemeanours throughout this tournament, the lack of discipline. Yeah. But the Russian discipline shown to achieve that result in that way, doesn't that have to be admired? Absolutely, and the communication that must have been going on the pitch between the whole different groups of players around, and just to be able to do that, you need to talk, you need to move, you need to almost go back to your basics, what you've learned in training, and just follow it and follow it and follow it. And they just, Spain for me, it's nice to watch, and I understand Damien's point of view about it being like a chess game and this. You have to have a plan B. You have to be able to do something else, and Spain just continue to do the same thing. Yeah. And Russia got so comfortable in the end that it was just second nature to them, because they'd been doing it for 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 70 minutes. Nothing ever changed for them, so they knew once they got back in, if they were in their shape, they weren't getting beaten. Yeah, and we can only speculate, I don't know whether we have time for it now, as to what might have happened had the manager not changed. But that's another issue. We're going to look at the penalties, Eamon, and we were having a chat just before the penalties about the importance of the goalkeeper, and when the goalkeeper makes their decisions during these spot kicks.
Yeah, I think you should make your decision as late as possible and make the forward make the decision. But if the penalty taker has real belief and conviction, it's hard to stop them. But I think the keeper should stand up for as long as possible. But there are differing views about that. Damien was telling us what Shay Given believes, for example, and Shay believes something different, doesn't it, Damien?
I think Shay likes to go early.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
But listen, that didn't work in 2002, so sorry, Shay. But listen, you can practice these yesterday. They'll all have practiced, and you know, nothing recreates this pressure. The whole world watching. 80,000 people in the stadium, nothing recreates it, so it's having that bottle. So even the lads that missed, you know, you have to hold your hands up and go, listen, well done. But you know, the first one, I'd have to say, the first one and the third one, the guy, he's had an awful lot of stick this tournament. He'll be disappointed with him. He got a good hand on the first, the third one's gone under him, and even the fourth had a push, you'd question him. But Akinfeev, like you said, he's had so much stick through the years, but hero tonight.
And Richard's point about discipline as well is very important. To keep your concentration and your discipline for 2 hours plus against the side as skilled as the Spanish is a real feat of endurance and athleticism. And it really is. It's quite remarkable. I don't think they probably didn't think they had it in it themselves.
No, it's beyond their wildest dreams, Eamon, isn't it? They're in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but there's nothing lucky about it. That's really the point. This is not a fluke result, is it, guys? No. This is a result of what the things Richard and Damien described.
Yeah, it certainly isn't the case where you can say, well, they had the rub of the green. There's nothing to do with that. You're quite right.
It's not lucky.
No, it's one of those games where you can tell in advance that we're not going to have much of the ball. So what are we going to work on in training? We're just going to get behind the ball, and we're going to keep our shape, and we're going to move from side to side, because this will replicate what Spain will try and do to us. And they were perfect at it today. There was never one opportunity, a little through ball. They were in the right positions. They were covering. There wasn't. I don't even think they made a lot of tackles. They were more just blocking areas, blocking spaces away, and they were excellent with it. Yeah, and Eamon, a piece of analysis that you guys were working on throughout the game really was the poor possession that the Spain had, not making use of the possession they had, essentially.
It's good possession, but it's going nowhere. And if you just start here, this is characteristic of the whole game. Just stop it there. Look where they're starting from. Now that ball, Costa is out of picture on the right and would be looking for that, but he never gets it. They pass it around and they're going nowhere. The white shirts, what's the white shirts? They keep their discipline and their shape. Now, again, Costa would be looking for it, doesn't get it. And watch, he'll turn out of there and there's another square ball. So the white shirts have to move and reposition themselves. Now Iniesta has it, but they're going nowhere. Pass it back, sideways, and again, the white shirts adjust. So it's forwards against defenders. Richie, Damien?
Yeah, and it's there's a ball straight in there to Costa, but no, they come back again. And as a centre forward, I can imagine every time he's making that run and the ball's not coming to him, the next time he's thinking, well, what's the point? Because it's just going backwards. And it's all well and good keeping the ball, but the entire Russian team is now back behind it, and they're walking because the ball is moved at such a slow pace that there's no threat to them. There's no problem. As long as they stay switched on, there's nothing you can do. And it's beautiful to watch at times, but if there's no end product, it's pointless. Spain will be better off at times giving the ball away, so teams will come up a little bit up the field and they can maybe attack in behind. Because this way, when teams are settled,
you can see the clock on the right. They've had the ball for a minute and a half, and they've gone about 15 yards. And the Russians are still in their comfort zone. They've still got their men in front of them. No problem.
They're taking breathers as well, the Russian players, because they're not being dragged from one side to the other side. It's slow, casual, not lazy, but it's uninventive. There's no invention. You need someone to drive forward with the ball, commit a defender, and then you've got a little bit of space. Someone else can make a move then, but everything is too safe. And it's like academy footballers. You just make the same player over and over and over. You need someone with a bit of brains, a bit of difference, like when Rodrigo came on at the end and he does a bit of skill and he gets in, and it's exciting. This isn't exciting.
That's the one thing that stood out for me. Rodrigo, nobody did that in the whole game. Just engaging a player, taking someone on, dribbling. Like, it's all very well pass, touch. They've won tournaments obviously doing that, but you always need a dribbler in your team. And like Richard said, just stepping into someone and engaging someone. You know, we always try to coach, control the ball, pass it, but you know, you need the art of dribbling as well.
This is also where the coach might step in at half-time, say, look guys, we've got to move the ball quicker. We've got to get it up to Costa quicker. He might demand that, but he's gone.
OK, didn't happen for Spain today. Tactically and every other way, it's Russia who march on, and we'll find out who they'll play next when Croatia take on Denmark. That's at 6:30.